Hello everyone and welcome along to this latest episode of TurfCast podcast with me, Joe Redman. Of course, this week we're looking ahead to Burnley against Crystal Palace, and we'll get into that in just a moment. First of all, if you are watching on YouTube, please remember to smash that like button, and of course, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It helps the channel out loads. And I just want to talk about the little bit of a break that we've had recently. Thank you. Honestly, I must have had I'm humbled by the amount of messages we've had. We must have had about 25, maybe pushing 30 different messages, people from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Newcastle, Neil, if you're watching evening, and of course people in Burnley as well. But loads of people just messaging Norway, Jens, if you're watching, listening. Loads of people have messaged us and asked where the podcasts have gone. It's just been a bit difficult recently. I think I said to a lot of people, I started a second job, but still doing the first job. So I've got two jobs now. I've got a little toddler as well. So if at any point I've got him, I can't do the podcast anymore, really, because he's just going to be behind me shouting, Daddy, I want this, Daddy, I want that, which is all right on watch-alongs because it's fun, it adds to it, but on podcasts it can be quite difficult. So I've just sort of like not really had the time to do it. And of course, it is mum's a nurse as well, so there is a lot of time where I do just have him on my own and stuff. So to do that and two jobs, it can be quite difficult. So, but we're back anyway now. I'm hoping to carry on doing it as much as I did back in the day. We're still looking for people to help out. If you want to come on, I know a few people have said you want to. So I want to create like a little team of people that will come on for the sort of like the post-game show, or maybe even sort of like a mid-season review, sort of like debate and things like that. So I'm always up for, even if you're part of another channel and things like that, it's always good to get more people on and talk about different stuff after the games and things like that. And of course, I'll do the pre-game show, which is what this is. But it's good to be back, and we'll be getting in a regular on TurfCast in just a minute. But of course, on this little bit of break we've had some news as Clarets that I do want to talk about. And if I can remember how to get it up on screen, which I will try right now. If you're listening on the podcast, apologies, while I just fill some dead air about... okay, it's saying it's not going to let me do it. A second. So if I just... Oh, here we go. Obviously, the news that John Pender has been diagnosed with motor neuron disease. It's now on your screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you should see it. That is, of course, the Burnley Express article and all the pop-up adverts that you get along with it. So, yeah, there it is. Of course, some devastating news about John Pender having motor neuron disease. It turns out he's had it for a couple of years as well, which I think is interesting. Obviously, it's come out this week because I think a few of them had a meetup and someone put a tweet out to say that it wasn't there because it was, progressing, I think is probably the right word to say. But his family released a statement because they're looking for some funding, and I've put a tweet up, so please go and look out for that, and a Facebook post up, which has the Just Giving page in there. I think they're looking for £10,000 just sort of like to give him a bit of, is it a new chair? I can't remember. Some better equipment that he needs to help him while he battles the disease. But just to read the statement out, which is here on the Burnley Express website, it says, today we are asking for you to support ex-Burnley captain, player and captain fantastic John Pender, who has regrettably been diagnosed with life-changing and debilitating illness, motor neuron disease. Unfortunately, John is now completely wheelchair-bound and requires 24/7 care to undertake day-to-day tasks. I just scroll past all these adverts again. It's infuriating. But John has an enduring love for Burnley FC and with the fans, having captained them to 2 promotions, triumphed at Wembley and put his body on the line during his 171 league appearances. John committed his whole life to football, in particular Burnley. So we ask you, the Turf Moor faithful, to pull together so we can transform his quality of life. We hope you are willing to support a fellow Claret. Now, of course, that's just the article on it. That isn't the actual Just Giving link. I will put the Just Giving link, if you're watching on YouTube, in the comments below. I suggest, even if it's only a couple of quid, I suggest that every Burnley fan should donate to that. And it sounds a bit rich coming from me. I haven't done it yet, just to give full transparency, but I'm getting paid at midnight tonight, so you can expect a donation from me and TurfCast tomorrow. And I think every Burnley fan should do the same, even if it's just £1. There's there's regular Burnley fans, the 20,000 that go on the turf. All right, with away fans, it's probably about 18,000. If every Burnley fan just put £1 in the bucket, it's only the same as doing that. Then they'd raise 18 grand, and they only want 10, or need 10, should I say, for what they're trying to do for John. So I think every Burnley fan should do it. I'll be doing it tonight, and I recommend that you all do the same, please. But right, let's get into it then. Of course, Palace this weekend, Burnley are looking like they're back to their old selves, unbeaten in 3 after a 2-2 draw at Southampton, an impressive win at home against flavour of the month Brentford, and of course a battling point away at Chelsea with a slice of luck, but a battling point nonetheless. So I think Burnley are a little bit back. So let's hope we can go into this game and add to that. It's just the international break might have taken the wind out of ourselves a little bit. But let's get into it. I am welcomed now by D from Back of the Nest, and you will recognise him because he's been on the show quite a lot. Right, and just like that, as mentioned, we are joined by D, who's from Palace Podcast YouTube channel, fan page, Back of the Nest. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing good. As a Palace fan, it's probably the best time to chat to me over here since we got promoted.
Yeah, it's been a good start to the season, hasn't it? I think that's fair. That's a bit of an understatement so far. Sitting pretty in the Premier League, doing very well. But yeah, let's get straight into it then, because of course there was Roy Hodgson left in the summer. Patrick Viera, Premier League legend, came in. But even though he's got a good status as a Premier League legend, there were a few raised eyebrows. Didn't pull up any trees in the MLS or in France where he's been a manager before. What did you think? Not now. What did you think at the time when you brought him in? Was you happy with the appointment? Was you a little bit disappointed? Was you a little bit sort of like reluctant and thought, oh, I don't know about this one? How did you feel at the time when he was confirmed?
Patrick Viera was, if not one of our last choice in the manager list. We tried to get Nuno, he went to Tottenham, and actually we rejected him. Then he went to Tottenham. We tried to get Favre. We tried to get all types of managers, and even Sean Dyche. I think he was on the list as well, but I can't remember exactly how that went. I think he wanted to say
he's always on your. Other rumors are he's always on your list, but nothing ever seems to happen.
So we tried to get all types of managers, and then when it came to it, all of them, it just didn't work out. And then there was that one manager on the list that we haven't ticked off yet, and that was Patrick Viera. And when we did sign him, there were, of course, some Palace fans saying, Patrick Viera, he's unproven. Is that the approach that we want? But in a way, I wasn't like that. I actually wanted him at Palace due to the fact that it's something different. Like, I've been calling for something different for ages. We've had all the managers that you can list in terms of Tony Pulis, Sam Allardyce, Alan Pardew, Neil Warnock.
They're all very similar, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all very similar type of. Yeah, even Roy Hodgson. They're all very similar type of managers, and the only thing that you can realistically do with them is just stay up. So I wanted a manager who was the underdog. And Patrick Viera was the underdog in this job list. And when you looked into him and the type of football that he wanted to play, it was positive. And we saw it in the first pre-season game. So in a way, I was excited by it because of the underdog factor. And it was something different, which is what I've been calling out for. It might have gone horribly wrong. It still might go wrong. We don't know. It's been 11 games, but so far the players love him. We're talking about Wilfried Zaha. We'll probably talk about him later on. He loves him. He seems like he wants to stay at the club. But the whole effect that he's had at the football club in terms of the mentality, we've gone from whole defensive football to attacking football, to bringing in younger players, to making the players feel like there's actual competition at the club. He's brought that in. And for that reason, I'm happy now. And I was happy when he was appointed because I didn't know what to expect from him. And that's what I liked.
Yeah. So what's different then? What has he brought that's different then? You mentioned it there, a little bit more attacking football, but what's your sort of that style of play now? How are you going to play against Burnley this weekend compared to what you would have done under Hodgson?
So possession football, that's our style of play. Look, we beat 2-0. We beat Man City 2-0 away from home. And that was not due to just keeping the ball for 90 minutes because you can't do that against the sides of City. But then, he changes his style of play. He changes it. But our main philosophy is keeping the ball, high intensity pressure in the other team when we're off it, counter pressing as well. So it's your typical modern football. And against Burnley, I expect us to keep the ball similar, to pressure you more often, which it wasn't really the case under Roy Hodgson. Under Roy Hodgson, whoever we faced, whether it was at home or away, it was the same style of football. Burnley away from home, we should be competing with you guys. But with Roy Hodgson, it felt like Burnley were the better side. It's like Burnley was City, or not only just Burnley again, or Leeds was City, or whoever we faced, they were just that top side when they weren't. So what Patrick Viera does is that he adjusts to his opponent. So with Burnley, we should be able to. You guys should compete with us, and we should compete with you. So what's going to happen is we're going to keep the ball. when we don't have the ball at the right moments, at the right time, we're going to be trying to get the ball off you instead of just sitting back and trying to defend for our lives. And that's a different style of play. I think you're going to see a completely different Palace side to what you've seen since we got promoted. We've never played like this. Maybe under Frank de Boer, we tried it like that. And I remember after Frank de Boer played you guys, he got the sack. But apart from that one game, and in the last 9 to 7 years, or 8 years, I can't remember, time flies by, since that we got promoted, we've never played like this. And it's a completely different Palace side. And I think every team that we face, they're like, oh, wait, that's how Palace play now. Because, it's something completely different on the other end of the football spectrum, from defensive football to attacking football.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot about that Frank de Boer debacle. Because I remember in the summer, a few people mentioned it, like, oh, Palace are going to try something different here. They tried to do it with Frank de Boer, and it didn't work. Obviously, we've already said that you were rooting for Viera. You wanted the underdog one, so that's fine. But I can imagine that burned a few Palace fans' fingers, and a few people a little bit like, oh, we've tried it before, we'll try it again. What was the feeling like amongst the fan base then? Obviously, you've said how you felt. What was the feeling like amongst the fan base? Were a few people worried about bringing Viera in?
Yeah, they were worried, and it's normal. I think what surprised me the most when Viera did join us, I think it was more of a relief than anything, because we didn't have a manager for it took like a month or two to find a replacement for Roy Hodgson. So if we got in Viera early doors, if we got in Viera 2 weeks or 3 weeks after Roy Hodgson left, then I think more people would have been frustrated, because, as you've said, he isn't really the proven Premier League manager. He hasn't managed in the Premier League, even though he's been with City and youth teams at City, and he went to MLS and went to France. We haven't seen him as much, but because it took him so long to join the club, I think many fans were in relief. Of course, there's going to be fans that are going to be upset about it due to the fact that he had barely any experience, but because it took him so long, many Palace fans were like, all right, let's get behind him and let's try to do something differently, because he will play a different style of football. So in a way, him being our last appointment, or one of the last managers on our list, has helped him in a way, because due to the fact that, we had basically no other options. So the fans couldn't say anything, because we tried it with all the other managers that everyone else wanted.
Yeah. What I want to know is how Frank de Boer keeps getting linked to jobs. Like, he's never done well anywhere.
He's done now. I think he's done now. I think
is he done now?
Yeah. I think he's a retired manager.
A retired failed manager.
Yeah, retired. Yeah, exactly. He tried at Palace. He tried at Holland. He went over to MLS. He went to Inter.
Yeah, he went to Atlanta. He was dreadful there. I don't know how he keeps. He's got a very good agent. I'm telling you now, mate. He has got a
his agent. I love his agent. Exactly. He must pay his agent. He must pay his agent good money, because he always manages to find him jobs. But Frank de Boer, I think, is done. And in a way, when Frank de Boer did leave Palace, I was one of them saying, what on earth are we doing as a football club? He was here for 5 games, and we already sacked him. But later on, we found out that it was the right thing to do, because we managed to stay up in the Premier League under Roy Hodgson. And that season, if we did take a bit longer in terms of sacking Frank de Boer, maybe right now I'm not talking to you. God knows where we are as a football club, because we could have easily got relegated. And when you look at it in hindsight, it did work out well, because Frank de Boer has been a failure of a manager wherever he's gone. Literally, at Inter Milan, he was there for 90 days. And then at Palace, how many? It never worked out for him. So clearly, he was a very good football player in his time, but not every former player can do it like Patrick Viera.
Yeah, that's right. I enjoyed that. But yeah, you're right. There's a few players that can't do it. Look at Gary Neville. He's a very good pundit, and he talks a lot of sense. But at Valencia, dreadful. There's some other examples out there off the top of my head. Went Paul Scholes at Oldham for a bit as well. Yeah. He did do very well. Now he's chomping on his toenails. Roy Keane. Well, he did all right at Ipswich. Yeah, he did all right at Ipswich. Or did he do all right at Sunderland? Then he was dreadful at Ipswich. I can't remember. He did all right somewhere. He did all right somewhere. I think he got somebody promoted. But then it just kind of went south after that. And then he just always looked insane. Like, he'd grow a big beard and it'd be unshaved. He'd have big hair. It's like, this is clearly getting to him. Get out of management. But yeah, sitting 10th in the Premier League, as you've mentioned. What is the ceiling for Palace this season then? Do you think you can push on, maybe get that 7th place? And of course, if other things go your way, 7th can mean Europa League football. But I think even now it might mean that other European trophy that nobody really cares about, but it's a European competition that you'd rather be in than not. The one that Tottenham are in, I can't remember the name of it.
The Conference League.
Yeah, that one. Can Palace push on and maybe get into something like that, or do you think it's top half is probably the ambitions for you now?
Well, look, Joe, the teams that we've faced so far this season, we've had the hardest fixture list. There's no doubt about it. And I can't say what Palace can do now because we've got some winnable games coming up. And for some of the games that we played so far this season, we've already faced in 11 games. We faced Chelsea, we faced Liverpool, we faced West Ham, we faced Leicester, we faced City, we faced Brighton, we faced Tottenham. And we basically faced all the teams above us. And so far this season, we've only lost 2 games. And that was Chelsea and Liverpool. And the Liverpool game, even though it was 3-0, we were massively unlucky because it was just set pieces. And Jurgen Klopp said that. Jurgen Klopp said that it was the hardest 3-0 victory he's had in his career. So we haven't had one bad performance apart from the Chelsea game, which was the first game of the season. So for Palace's ceiling, right now, as I've said, there's belief that we can go out there and compete with whoever. We went to the Etihad and beat City 2-0. Now, who keeps a clean sheet? Who keeps a clean sheet at the Etihad, let alone gets a win over City? Top sides don't do that. And we managed to do that because we changed our style of play. So for Palace right now, it's really on us where we finish. I truly believe that because we've seen it. On our day, we can beat anyone. And so far this season, one bad performance. That's it. So we've got some winnable games coming up. Of course, with all due respect, you guys probably see us as a winnable game as well on the same list. But we faced Wolves, we beat them, and now we've got Burnley, we've got Villa coming up, we've got Leeds coming up, we've got Man United coming up, which Man United
is a winnable game.
It's a winnable game as well. With the current manager, anyways. Then we got Everton, we got Southampton. So up until Christmas, it's very hard for me to judge what we can do because. If we can win them games, as I've said, we would. If we beat the Brighton game on our show, if we beat Brighton, which we should have done, if we beat Arsenal, right now we're sitting 2 points off Liverpool after facing all them difficult teams. Everyone talks about the likes of West Ham, but no one. I know people are talking about Palace and Conor Gallagher, but no one's really talking about as much as I would like with Patrick Viera and the job that he's done, considering that he took over from Roy Hodgson. So. It's all on us. I honestly believe that we can finish top half of the table. I really do think that. But in terms of European places, there's going to be injuries that come along the way. There's going to be lots of different factors that come along the way. Maybe a bad dip in form as well. But I think European spots, especially Conference League, if we continue playing like this, I think it's a possibility. If we go and win the games that we should be winning, and it's a massive relief because we haven't ever talked about European football at Palace since. Probably Alan Pardew up until December we were playing good, then it just fell. But this is unfamiliar territory with Palace. Right now, all we talk about, since we got promoted, is survival. And now we're looking above us for the first time in the history of us getting promoted since 2013.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel like it's been the last 3 seasons on this podcast, which is pretty much when we started it. It's just talking about survival and can we stop all that. But we kind of this podcast missed the boat of the European football, which is a shame. But yeah, that feeling of like, I remember we beat Leicester like 3 games before the end, and that didn't 100% confirm it, but it practically did because they were the only team that could beat us. And like just the thought of the fact that like Burnley are going to be playing against like some of the biggest clubs in the world was just insane. Obviously, we ended up getting beat by Olympiacos in the 3rd qualifying round, which was a bit of a shitter. But I think that season, if we'd have got through, I think we'd have gone down. Like we started off so badly that season because we were playing Sunday, Thursday, and we were just getting tanked everywhere we went. So I think if we'd have got through, we would have gone down. It'd have been a good ride along the way. I'd imagine going to places like, I don't know, obviously I went to Olympiacos, could have gone to San Siro, things like that. So that'd have been fun. But yeah, exactly. That'd have been fun. Like, it's getting knocked down as well soon, isn't it? So it's going to be a stadium that I probably won't get a chance to see now. But yeah, so I hope you do well. Obviously after this weekend. So fingers crossed. It's always good to see. Like, I want West Ham to get into Champions League because it's good to upset the apple cart a bit. You know what I mean? Like the top 4 would be absolutely spitting if West Ham got into Champions League, and then they'd all kick up another fuss about the Super League. And then if Palace as well got into the Europa League, that'd piss them all off even more. And then you got United sitting in 8th, for example, or Tottenham missing out as well. That'd be absolutely hilarious. But yeah, so we've talked about Palace. What's your opinions on Burnley then? Obviously, got a bit of a reputation for being sort of like bully boys and stuff. Obviously, the red card and the disciplinary stats prove otherwise. Only team We now hold the record for the amount of consecutive games without a red card, which is, I think, standing at 104, 105 at the minute. But yeah, every single week on social media, it's just someone will screenshot a Burnley challenge and like, look at state of this. And it's like, I remember James Tarkowski on Richarlison against Everton. Strong, hard, fair challenge, won the ball. Everton fans spitting feathers, livid, calling us yard dogs. This weekend, Mason Holgate, studs up on somebody's leg. Sorry, not this weekend before, international break. And there's no word, no screenshots, nothing. It just winds me up no end. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Burnley and their style of play and what they can achieve this season?
I think Burnley, even though when I think of Burnley, I think of physical strikers, a solid defensive team. You got quality players there as well. Dwight McNeil, Tarkowski, and now you got Cornet as well. I think Burnley. I think with Burnley, I've asked you this as well on our show. It's like you stayed up last season. You went on that European run, but how much do you want to stay around the mid-table survival area? Because as I see Burnley, I think they're a solid Premier League side and they will stay up. Sean Dyche will keep them up. But going to the next level, there's a debate, of course, whether Sean Dyche is backed enough to go to the next level with the funds, and also whether Dyche can play with them players, because he has... I think Dyche also gets criticised as well because he has a particular style of play. But at times, I've seen it against the likes of Arsenal, for example, when you need to press, you will press as well. It's not just, where with Roy Hodgson, where you just sit back for 90 minutes every single game. He does make few tweaks, and I like that about him. But with Burnley, I think they're a solid Premier League side, and I think they need a bit of investment to go to the next level. But as a Burnley fan, if I was a Burnley fan, because I've gone through this with Palace, maybe it's a bit different, Sporting Palace or Burnley, but when you just survive every single season, even though you've had that Europa League run, which we haven't had, it gets a bit of stale, and you're saying, well, are we going to change anything? Are we going to try and achieve something in this league? And if we're not, then should we just, what's our goal? Because it gets a bit boring staying up to this season. So probably you can answer that for me, whether it's getting a bit stale. I guess it might not be, because we have different ambitions, maybe, because we do invest in our squad a bit more than you guys do, I believe. I'm not too sure about this summer, but in general, Palace, we bought a Saka for 26 million, etc. Yeah. So Burnley's not really high spenders, but I see Burnley as a strong, stable Premier League club under Sean Dyche. But moving to the next level, I'm not too sure how you guys do that unless you spend money.
Yeah, I think we have to. I think the fact this season, since the new owners have been in, it was their first summer transfer window this summer. Brought in Connor Roberts, who's a good young right back, obviously Welsh international, Maxwell Cornet. So I think the signs there that things are starting to change a little bit. I don't think we'll ever be one of these sides that throws 50 million quid at a player, which can be frustrating because you're seeing the likes of, even yourselves, like you just mentioned there, just off the cuff spent 26 million quid. That would easily be our record signing if we did that. You see the likes of Leeds coming up from the Championship who spend a lot of money when they did come up. Villa always spend money. Not that long ago, they're in the Championship. I think they spent 100 million quid every single summer at Villa. Who else came up recently that spent a lot of money? Fulham, even when they come up, they spend up money. Well, Brentford as well. Brentford, they've recruited well and spent a lot of money. So I do find it a bit frustrating that we aren't one of them clubs, but at the same time, I can understand why, because in the previous owner, we had zero debt, and he looking back in hindsight, I think it's obvious he always wanted to sell the club, and that's why a healthy balance sheet looks better to a prospective buyer than an asset on the pitch. So I think that's why we didn't buy for so many years, and it did start to get a bit stale. Same players coming in, always older sort of players like your Bardsleys, people like that. I love Jay Rodriguez again, another signing that wasn't the most inspirational one in the world. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Whereas now I do see the tide sort of like changing a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how we move on from here, because obviously we still need players to come in. We need young midfielders. We need good midfielders. It's looking like talk is off in the summer, so we're probably going to need another defender. But Nathan Collins as well, actually, that's another one who I've just totally forgot about. A good defender at Championship level, and he's coming now and he's young and stuff. That's always going to be sort of like our, not marquee signing, because obviously Cornet is a marquee signing, our style of signing, which I don't necessarily mind bringing in the young, hungry lads from the Championship. It's when we're bringing in your Bardsleys on a free or for like 100k or whatever, that can get a bit frustrating. But yeah, I think now with a new owner, I think he's going to want to do something a bit different. And I think Dyche has said, yeah, things are a bit different now. Money's not as tight. We have conversations about it. Whereas I think back in the past, yeah, it did start to get a bit stale because it was just bringing in old defenders. Like we brought in Peter Crouch, for God's sake, for 6 months. You know what I mean? That were the sort of signing that Burnley made. You know what I mean? Whereas now, yeah, I do feel it's a little bit different, and hopefully we can push on and do more of the same. But yeah, let's talk about this weekend then. Oh, sorry, go on if you want to mention something.
Sorry, yeah, but credit to Dyche though, because he's managed with all them players there. I can't imagine.
Exactly.
If we had Phil Parsley at Palace, I'd probably lose my mind. And then getting Peter Crouch, and afterwards it's just like these players are just expired. They're just just keeping them at the club, giving them wage just for the sake of having them there. It's not really quality players that bring them on the next stage. For example, at Palace, I did mention Saka all them years ago, but talking about this summer, we spent nearly £40 million on just 2 centre halves, and it's getting to a stage.
Mental.
Yeah, and it's getting to that stage now, though, where if you're not going to spend, there's only so much that can do. Yeah, if you're seeing clubs like Palace spending, if you're seeing clubs like Aston Villa and Leeds, like everyone is trying to spend money, and if you don't, you will be left behind. And even as Palace fans, it's new territory for us because we had to reinvest in the squad. We got rid of all the old players, and we combined them with younger players, and we've got a bit of more experience. So it's more of a balanced squad. And I think with you guys, I read something about you have 10 players out of contract this summer, and it might be we was in a similar situation this past summer where we had lots of players out of contract, and that's where you start the rebuild. So with you guys, if that's true, I'm not too sure. I haven't read into it in particular, but I saw something like that. And if that's true, then this might be the perfect opportunity for Burnley to start that rebuild and give Dyche the opportunity to bring in a bit more quality younger players, because that's what Palace done, and so far it has worked out.
Yeah, see, like you asked me on your show that we just recorded before this one. Go and check it out on YouTube. It's Back of the Nest. You'll find it on there. Are some Burnley players wanting Dyche out? But you just mentioned it there with the level of the caliber of players that Dyche has been given for the last 4 seasons. I don't think anybody else keeps us in the Premier League. Not even some of the world's best managers. I think they just kick off and be like, well, this is enough. I'm off. Like Benitez did at Newcastle all them years ago and stuff like that. So I don't think anyone else keeps it in the Premier League. So yeah, full credit to Dyche there. And also one of the points I made quite a lot on the podcast before the new chairman took over was that I feel like the old chairman, Mike Garlick, he got us to where we are. He built the club into this position, but I think it just outgrew him, and the Premier League outgrew him and his wealth. And I think that's part of the reason why we just weren't spending any money. Whereas I think now the new guys have come in. So far, so good. Obviously, a few people are worried about the leverage buyout, but that's an entirely different debate, which we're obviously not going to get into now. But we'll see. So far, so good for me from the new owners. But yeah, let's talk about this weekend then. You've mentioned already, actually, I think it was on your show, to be fair, that you are coming up for the game. So if anyone sees D, give him a wave, a nice, pleasant Burnley wave. If you see him in a cricket field pub, I presume if you're going to go to a pub before the game, that should be where you go.
I haven't really planned it yet in terms of where we're going. I'm going with a couple of other Back of the Nest crew. So yeah, I'll be traveling up. I haven't missed a single game this season. I think 12 games. So every away game being Liverpool.
Dedication, mate.
Yeah, but to be fair, this is the season to do something like that. I decided that this season I'm going to stay dedicated. I'm like, let's go back Patrick Viera. I went to the first couple of season against Chelsea, and then afterwards I was like, all right, I'm just going to go every single game.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you carried on going to all the games after that one, then you are.
Yeah, exactly. And then afterwards, that's what I've done after the Chelsea. I was like, all right, it might be a long season after that game, but I've been to every single game, and I'm going to the Burnley one. I've been to Burnley once. I think that was when we beat you guys 3-2. Dwight Gale scored. I think you guys were 2-0 up, and you had Danny Ings.
Mate. Jesus Christ. I remember that. Were it first game of season? No,
it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
No, because there's been a few times when I'm thinking of Dougie Freeman all them years ago, mate.
Yeah.
We're 2-0 up against you, first day at season. 2-0 up against you, first day at season, come back and win. But we have so many good games, Burnley Palace at the Turf.
Yeah, we score goals.
I remember the season after that you're on about. If you're going to bring up a bad memory, I'll bring up a bad memory. The season after that you're on about, we were beating you 2-0. You come back 2-2. Every Burnley fan's thinking, here we fucking go again. Then Ashley Barnes at 94th minute to absolutely seal it. We have some good games, Burnley Palace, man. We have some really good games. So fingers crossed for another good game this weekend.
Yeah, you would think that though, normally. But yeah, I'll be travelling up. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're travelling up, I'd recommend the there's a cricket pitch behind the turf, and that tends to be where all the away fans go.
I think that's where you park as well. I think that's where.
Yeah, I think you can park there. Yeah.
So I think that's where we'll park. Yeah, we'll probably go to there. But I'm excited by it, Joe. I think as I've said, both sides we both can get a result out of this. I truly believe that. But with Palace, it's a different style of play, and I was worried in the last game against Wolves because typical Palace will be you beat 2-0 City, and then you go at Wolves at home and you lose like 3-1, and it's like, all right, that's it. But for the first time, we were in control. Like we beat City away from home, and then we go to our home game against a Wolves side that are above us in the league, and they started the season off a bit slow, but they've gone on now and doing better things. And we managed to beat them comfortably. So when it goes to games like this, as a Palace fan, if you really we're talking about where we can finish, but if we really can push on for them Europa Conference League or wherever we want to finish, realistically, we need to win games like yours. And if you guys want to set up, you have to beat us as well. So it's not just one-sided thing. So I'm positive about the game. I really am. As a Palace fan, the only negative is the international break because, as I said, we've had a momentum going on, and we're being solid. We're unbeaten in our last 6 games, which is pretty impressive in itself. So I'm excited by the game. I feel like both sides got a decent chance of winning. But Palace on the day, if we do turn up, we've got this mentality under Patrick Viera that even the players say it in their post-match conferences that we can literally beat any other side out there. And I guess as a player, they'll be looking at this Burnley game saying, we need to win this.
Yeah, of course. And obviously on the flip side of it, I'm sure the Burnley players will be saying the same thing. I think I said it again. I said it on your show. You want to, anyone outside the top 6, when you're taking them on at home, you've got to back yourself. But obviously you said you're feeling confident. I think quite a few Burnley fans will be now feeling more confident than they were about 6 weeks ago. We've gone on a better run. Obviously beat Brentford 3-1 at the Turf. Then we've got the result against Chelsea. And obviously before that one, I'm just having to get the results back up. So it's been that long ago. Before that one, we got a draw at Southampton, 2-2 at Southampton. So we've I feel like we've turned the corner a little bit. So I'm quietly confident as well, but I'm in a similar sort of vibe to you. Maybe the international break has sort of like taken the wind out of our sails a little bit because we were just starting to build up some momentum after having some poor results so far this season. But never really playing too poorly, apart from a couple of games here and there. So yeah, predictions then. Obviously, I'm going to go 1-0 or 2-1 to Burnley, but you've said you're feeling confident, so I can expect a sort of like similar score from you, but for Palace.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 Palace. I think we talked about her in our show, but I think Burnley will get a set piece goal. And I know you said that you ain't that great in set pieces, but Palace with especially Joachim Andersen, he has struggled at times with aerial duels. I think that's going to be a massive factor as well. I'm not too sure the style of football, as you mentioned on our show, that you might have tweaked it a bit. It's not just sometimes you do want to keep the ball. So I think up in the air, I can see us conceding a set piece goal, even though we've improved in the last few weeks. We started off really badly. But I think when you're looking at the quality and the momentum that we've got, 6 games unbeaten, of course, international break in between that. But now we've got Eze back on the bench as well, which is scary sight because I don't know how he fits into this Palace side at this current moment. He's going to be back for this game. You've had a couple of players that's gone away at international duty, like Benteke scored a goal, got an assist. And also you got players that had a rest. It's been a hectic first 11 games, as I mentioned, pretty much facing the top 8 in your first 11 games, which is scary in itself. But we managed to come out of it in a very good position because we're only 3 points off 5th place as it stands. So I think we'll be confident going into this game. The players will be up for it. So I'm going for a 2-1 Palace victory. The confidence I'm getting is from the Wolves game because against a side who was solid defense, they were compact all game. We managed to break them down, which is the thing that I was worried about. So if we can break you guys down at the same like we did with Wolves, then I think it should be a good game. But I don't think it'll be an easy ride for Palace.
No, fingers crossed for an entertaining game anyway. But that's it then from this week's show. Before we do go though, do you just want to tell everyone where they can find you, where they can watch you, and where they can listen to you?
So right now, we're happy as Palace fans. We want to see some positive Palace content. Check out Back of the Nest on all social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter. And YouTube, where there we'll be hosting live match reaction shows, player ratings, all of them, the usual things. So yeah, check out Back of the Nest on YouTube. And yeah, thank you for having me on, Joe.
No, thank you for coming on, mate. And as you said on your show, I think it's like the third time that we've done this, like been on each other's show.
Yeah.
So we should do a soccer AM vibe and send each other a hat trick ball or something like that. That we can keep the Turfcast hat trick ball, back of the nest hat trick ball on my windowsill, which you can't see to be fair, because I've changed.
I'll be happy with a Zaha hat trick ball this weekend. Forget about hat trick ball. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah. All right, you can. I'll be happy with a Woody one then, fingers crossed. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Like I said, it's been enjoyable. Always a good chat. Always nice and easy to talk to. So I'm sure I'll have you on again in the reverse fixture, and hopefully next season's over. Like I said, thank you for coming on. Thank you to everybody for watching TurfCast podcast. TurfCast is back. We should be doing this again every single week now. The 60-second review will be back on YouTube again. At the end of the game, and not straight away, obviously I need to get on first, but then pretty much straight as soon as possible. So look out for that, look out for all the content as well that's going to be coming back, and thank you for watching and listening.